They say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. If that's the case, then Ferrari must be feeling pretty good about themselves. Haas are performing so well that teams are accusing them of copying Ferrari. So why are teams calling the Haas car a white Ferrari, and how did Ferrari get so far ahead? Stay tuned to find out. Just a few races into the season, and already some teams are complaining. 3 teams have asked the FIA to investigate the new Haas car. The identity of the 3 teams is not publicly known yet, but there are some strong contenders. Based on comments made by team principals, the suspects are McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, and Mercedes. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff said that there needs to be reform to the regulations to make things clearer. He talked about how there were many similar accusations against Racing Point's imitation of a Mercedes car after they were given access to the same wind tunnel. That's where he thinks the problem stems from, the sharing of resources and equipment. He might have a point. Haas are located in an office next door to Ferrari's major factory in Maranello, and so it's easy to see how similar design could be reached. Alpine team principal Ottmar Schaffnauer said that he trusts the FIA to investigate and come to the right conclusion between how similar the 2 cars are. What's the big fuss? Well, these teams claim that Haas has copied Ferrari's car, but not just that, they also think that there has been some illegal sharing of technical information between the 2 teams. There haven't been any official protests yet, but they could be on the way. In Formula One, protesting is how teams push the regulations and find the boundaries. Next, the white Ferrari. This isn't the first time that teams have complained about extensive duplication of another team's design. Back in 2020, the newly established Racing Point team of Lawrence Stroll came out swinging in 2020. The car was a massive improvement from their previous year's car and jumped from 7th in the Constructors' Championship up to 4th place. It was lightning quick, and the team even won a race with the car, leading to the name the Pink Mercedes. But it was all a little suspicious for other teams. Already at preseason testing, there looked to be major similarities with the previous year's Mercedes car, and it was driving like one too. An official protest was launched by Renault, and Racing Point were found guilty. What was the charge? Not designing their own brake ducts. This component is part of the listed parts, meaning that each team has to come up with their own design. The penalty was over $200,000 and 15 World Championship points per car. Renault and Ferrari continued to complain and said that the penalty didn't go far enough because they were still using the car. After that fiasco, new regulations were brought in to prevent future copycat cases. Now, listed parts are enforced more strongly. These are the components that have to be entirely designed by a team. The regulations allow teams to be influenced by the design or concept of other cars, but they are not allowed to reverse engineer using photographs and design software. The FIA can request the data used by a team at any time they want. So if Haas comes under investigation, it will be pretty simple to get to the bottom of it. Next, new year, new Haas. This year's Haas is barely recognizable. Last year, they didn't score a single point and finished last in the Constructors' Championship, and the year before that, they only managed 3 points. This year, they already have 4 times the number of points they managed in the last 2 seasons. Kevin Magnussen has provided the bulk of the points, with Mick Schumacher still getting up to speed with the new car. At the season opener in Bahrain, Magnussen made a fairy tale return to the sport with his highest finish in Formula One. The Danish driver has floated around from McLaren to Renault and finally to Haas for 5 years, but he was never given the right car to make an impact. At the last minute of the season, he was called in to replace Nikita Mazepin, who was moved following wide-ranging sanctions against Russian athletes. It's been a super substitution by the Haas team boss, Gunther Steiner, and he is ecstatic to have K-Mag back on the team. How did Ferrari develop such a dominant car this season? And what does Gunther Steiner have to say about the accusations? All of that is coming right up. A stein of things to come. In characteristic Gunther Steiner fashion, he hit back at rival teams who accused Haas of copying Ferrari. Talking to the media, he welcomed the accusations, saying, "You have to work hard for envy. You get pity for free. I wish the other teams would be green with envy because that means we did a very good job." Steiner must be pretty happy right now. He's got a competitive car and fewer worries than he's ever had. After title sponsor Uralkali was pulled because of Dmitry Mazepin's ties to Vladimir Putin, Steiner was able to give the boot to his son Nikita too. Sure, they're currently in a legal battle of who owes what to who, but for now, Haas is sitting pretty. They managed to get rid of Nikita, who was a constant headache for the team. Nikita would complain and yell at his engineers about the car, his teammate, the position of the team, and everything in between. Now, Steiner has Magnussen back in his car, and they are getting back to business. Haas have struggled for years and had their highest finish back in 2018. The team has been looking ahead to this year for car development, and it looks like they got it just right. New regulations. This year was a revolutionary change of regulations that upset the entire design of each car. Now, the cars are focused on downforce generated from ground sound effect, and most teams are having issues with the porpoising of their cars. That's exactly what F1's technical director Ross Brawn envisioned when he said that these regulations would allow for closer racing, but the race has been both off and on the track. Another spoonful of help for Haas came in the form of the new cost cap. Constructors are now limited to spending $140 million on the performance of their cars, which includes most of the team's salaries too. As a smaller team, this plays right into Haas's hands and helps to level the playing field. The two dominant constructors, Red Bull and Mercedes, are both having serious problems sticking to their budgets, and it's translating onto the track too. Mercedes can't control their bouncing, and it looks like they have a weaker engine than Ferrari. Speed traps in Bahrain caught the Mercedes running at around 20 km per hour slower than the Ferrari, and this equaled around a second a lap during the race. Meanwhile, Red Bull are plagued by reliability issues. Max Verstappen retired his car in 2 out of the 3 first races and is starting to get frustrated, and Red Bull have only themselves to blame. As of this year, they are officially manufacturing their own engines under Red Bull powertrains. If you are a fan of the American Haas team, this season will be a joy to watch. It's David versus Goliath, but this time, David has a Ferrari engine. Advantage Ferrari. It's not just Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz winning so far this season. Ferrari's customer teams, Haas and Alfa Romeo, are also benefiting from the big gains made with the new engine. It could have something to do with their research programs. They agreed to participate with the FIA in 2019. After rival teams protested the legality of their engine, an investigation by the FIA was undertaken but kept behind closed doors. The results of that investigation are not known, but it did lead to Ferrari helping the FIA in testing their new E10 fuel that has come into play this season. Red Bull's Helmut Marko thinks that the switch to this new fuel is the reason behind Mercedes' lack of power. Ferrari, on the other hand, have got onto the front foot. Charles Leclerc has been flying up ahead. At the Australian Grand Prix, he won pole position and fastest lap of the race. And even as Verstappen hadn't retired, he was set to beat his rival by more than 30 seconds. And that's some real pace. And it reminds us of the dominant start that Mercedes got off to in 2014. Could this be a new era of Ferrari dominance? The way things are looking now, it very well could be. And Haas might be riding their coattails all the way to the top. That is, unless the FIA stops them. Do you think that Haas have copied the Ferrari's car design? Or are rival teams just surprised by their improvement? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.